And so, all right, with that being said, let's go ahead and jump in. Let me do a share screen with you guys and get into my PowerPoint. Are any of you guys farming right now? Lynette, you do? Okay. Lisa, you do, correct?
Yes.
Okay.
Awesome. I said no, I need to.
Oh, okay. Oh, I got one more person coming in. Okay, hold on. Sorry. Let me send that. I gotta send the materials to her. It's hard to do these Zoom classes by myself. I need help. Somebody navigating this other stuff. All right. Hi, Dia. All right, there we go.
Hi.
I just sent you the materials. Yeah, farming takes a minute, right? It does to get it going, but it can be very effective if we're doing the right thing. So first, we're going to talk about how to leverage our relationships. So your materials, the cover is going to say referral bootcamp. I changed the name of it because referral bootcamp doesn't really inspire you, right? It doesn't have any. It's not sexy, that name. So I changed the name to how to leverage your relationships, because really, that's what we're doing in this industry, is we're leveraging the people that we know to get referrals, right? And to grow our business. And so our relationships that we have with people are the most important, right? And how we value those people and how we interact with them. How we love on them, right? That's the most valuable thing that we have. So how do we create leverage with that? So we're going to walk through the 33 touch program of stuff that you guys hopefully will take and implement in your business, as far as staying in flow with people. In Arizona, there's almost 90,000 licensed agents. And in a hot market, we see a rush of, well, there's always a lot of people going to real estate school, but there's an uptick in a hot market because people get into real estate thinking that it's easy and I can make fast cash. Those of us who've been around for a minute know that that isn't necessarily the truth, right? And that's why there's such a huge turnover. 87% of people are done, right? They're out in less than 5 years. And so when we say, oh, I sent out a holiday card, great, but that's not enough, because everyone Mario, knows somebody else who's a realtor, right? And so we have to up our game. And so 33 touch might seem like a lot, but when I break it down for you, it really isn't. And it's what we should all be doing effectively. So let's jump in. So the purpose is we want to teach you guys how to be proactive and effectively stay in flow with people who know you and like you, okay? And also who would do business with you if you asked. A lot of times, especially as new people, you get into that headspace of, well, I'm new, they're not going to do business with me because I'm new. And that simply isn't the truth. Or you think, well, that person knows so-and-so, or that person so-and-so, whatever, right? We create all these excuses around the relationships that we have. But at the end of the day, unless you ask, you don't know if they would do business with you. Okay. So they know you, like you, they trust you, and they do business if you asked. Okay. So the expectation is that we want you to boost your confidence, right? We want to have enough confidence, Jessica, to solicit your friends, family, and past clients, right? When if you don't have any past clients, that's okay, right? The people that are in your sphere of influence, and really, feeling comfortable that I should be their go-to for real estate. And the result obviously is to increase our revenue. The plan, so we have our network, right? So we have our prospects, then we have a repeat and referral. That's the beauty of this business, is when we start to build it up and we get that repeat and referral business. I always love when people call me and say, do you remember me? Of course I remember you, right? And so, growing that so we can be their go-to person. What do we need to have? So we're going to talk about yard signs, your advertising, the internet, just listed postcards, and of course, having a client care system. I hope all of you are using some kind of a CRM to stay top of mind, or keep all your people in it, whether that's Booge or whatever. I know there's been some negativity around Booge. And I too will admit, I am a frustrated Booge user. It's taken a lot longer to work out all those kinks. I've noticed in the last couple of weeks, it's gotten a lot better, but it definitely has been a long road getting that system up and going. So whatever you're using, just make sure you have some kind of a CRM that you're housing all your people in. You're keeping all your notes and your data and all that stuff, okay? So the strategy, so looking at the 33 touch, we're gonna walk through that. And then other classes that we'll have coming up that are related. You've got the listing conversion, the buyer conversion, and of course, like I said, I'm marrying the marketing class with this class as well. And of course, just like any momentum class, you're going to get scripts and dialogues as well. All right, so if you're following along with materials, we're on page 4. So the no do have of the 33 touch. So obviously we got to have somebody to send it to, right? A prospect or a past client. You have your network. So in Momentum, they refer to it as network. You'll hear me say sphere of influence. It's the same, right? So it's your network, your sphere of influence, people who know you, like you, trust you. Okay. So what is the 33 touch? We're going to walk through that. And what do we need to have? So we need to have a call list, right? So be kind of a list of people to call. We're going to talk about 16 value added mailers, your birthday cards, both for everybody in the household, right? And then holiday card, Mother's Day, Father's Day. And I think that that is a brilliant idea. I think you could also tack on Grandparents' Day and step parents. You know, I'm a step parent and never got recognized on Mother's Day because I'm not technically a mom, but I am a mom, right? I was doing mom duty. And so if someone had sent me a step parent day card, that would have been very impactful for me. So a lot of people, my best friends, doing double duty, raising their grandkids. So a lot of grandparents out there that are raising grandchildren. So could you recognize Grandparent Day? So it's just another way to layer in. And at the end of the day, I mean, people don't care how much you know unless they know how much you care. And so we have opportunities to reach out to people. In fact, I've got a past client of mine that put some pretty apocalyptic type stuff on Facebook. And so I just texted her this morning and said, hey, I don't know what's going on, but let me know if you need anything. And so, we've got opportunities to reach out to people and squeeze the orange, if you will, on those touches. Okay. And of course, then thank you cards and note cards in general. I'll share with you guys, I just ordered, let me grab this. I ordered for St. Patrick's Day. I don't know if you can see, there are clovers on that. And then on the back side, I put, or on the inside, don't leave your home values up to the luck of the leprechaun. I'm here to help. And then I'm going to put a scratcher ticket in there. And the PS says, I'd love to know if you win. Give me a call, text, email, or Facebook Messenger. And so I'm sending these out to, I think there's 34 people in my database I'm sending these out to with the scratcher. And I'm going to also include a script up here in the blank space that says, did you know that the average person will know 5 people who will make a move in the next 12 months? I'd like to be top of mind when you hear of those folks. Here's a few of my business cards. And so I'm, having the PS right in there, I'm giving something of value, the scratcher, right? I'm making the touch, but then I'm also doing a soft ask as well. And so layering that in for St. Patrick's Day, because, the scratcher, right? The leprechaun. And that I got those through a company called Note Card Cafe for $27 with shipping and tax and everything, $27. I got 50 of them. So, and they're all customized. So I would definitely encourage you to check out that company. One of my coaching clients turned me onto it. I love it. It's fantastic quality and really affordable. So Note Card Cafe. So anyway, continuing on with thank you cards and note cards. I'm also a big fan now of send out cards. I wasn't, but I am now. They've really upped their game. You can actually send out gifts now with send out cards. And so, taking that a step further and customizing it. So I have a couple past clients that, their birthdays rolled around. And one of them in particular, he had done a post. He's a bicyclist. And before the coronavirus in 2019, they went on a trip to Paris and participated in a bicycle event. And it was the 1-year anniversary, and he did this post about how sad it was that they couldn't get together, et cetera, et cetera. So I grabbed that picture knowing his birthday was coming up, and I put it in send out cards. I made a custom birthday card for him with that picture and sent it to him. And he sent me the nicest Facebook message saying that that was probably the best gift that he got, and he was going to frame that picture. And what a special thing to have that. And because we don't really print pictures anymore, right? That used to be a thing where you actually took film to the drugstore and had it developed. Now we don't. Everything's digital. And so he was very appreciative of that. So don't overlook the power of taking something custom like that and create. It takes a little bit more time, right? But the impact is far greater than just a generic birthday card. So just a couple things, sorry, didn't mean to go down a rabbit hole, but a couple things I wanted to share with you guys. So, all right. And then our permission dialogue. So we got to have permission to, and again, you could do permission, you could do the apology script, right? The apology is that, sorry, I haven't been in touch with you like I should have, want to up my game. So we'll give you that script as well. All right. So network members. So everyone, so I love the script right at the top of page 5. Everyone knows 5 people who will make a move this year. So use that, you guys, use that script because that's pretty powerful. So the average person will know 5 people will make a move. I'd love to be top of mind when you hear about those people. Okay. It's a soft ask. So advocates, these are people who know you, they like you, and they are evangelical about you. Okay, they wouldn't do business without you, and they wouldn't let anyone they know do business without you. That's really critical. Is that they not only are they evangelical to you about their real estate business, but they also are about their sphere as well. And so in my mind, I'm a really great agent, right? Am I the best? Maybe not, but I'm in my mind, I do a good job. I represent my clients. I know the contract. I'm going to fight for them, right? I'm going to negotiate and I'm going to protect them. And so in my mind, if I do business with you, Mario, I want to make sure that everyone you care about has the same experience. And so the ask, I don't have a challenge doing the ask, because I know that if they work with me, they're going to have a great experience. And by default, if you care about them, I care about you. So now I care about them too. Does that make sense? And so kind of getting into that mindset and getting out of that creepy used car salesman, right? And asking for business. And so kind of shifting your thinking, right? That I want to protect them and take care of them. All right. So friends, family, acquaintances. So obviously they know you. Hopefully they like you. I've got some family that it's questionable, right? And then so given the opportunity, they would do business with you, but given the opportunity, they may do business with someone else. And here's the thing is sometimes, sorry about that. Sometimes we don't want to do business with family. You know, a few years ago, my sister-in-law and I were not on the same page. And so, you know, they were looking to make a move, and I intentionally did not work with them at that time because the relationship already was in a weird place. And I felt like if we did business and something went south, it would be even more damaging to the relationship. So I opted to not do business with them at that time. And so still made sure they were taken care of, but it was not me who was taking care of them. Now, things are okay now, so we're back in business, but you know, think about that sometimes the commission is not worth risking the relationship. Okay, and sometimes our family doesn't want you to know, right? They don't want you to know their business, and sometimes that's even the case with our good friends. They don't want you to know their business. Now, I also think that we have an opportunity right now to be reaching out to some people in our databases, because there are some people who are in trouble out there. And what do I mean by that? They're in default, their mortgage is in forbearance, or maybe they've missed a couple payments and they just got that notice of foreclosure. I was in MLS the other day, our mastermind last week. We were talking about multiple offers and just kind of navigating the craziness right now. And I actually, that same day, had a relative of mine reach out from Washington, and her house is she got a call from a lawyer about a foreclosure. And long story short, there's a divorce situation, et cetera, et cetera. But I hooked her up with an agent, and because I'm like, you shouldn't let this go to foreclosure, right? The market is hot. So you should be able to sell this, and let's turn a crappy situation around and get you out of the situation. So I share that with you because that prompted me to start looking at foreclosures here in Phoenix. And you know, how many people just since from January? There's not a ton, but there are some. And so when you're looking at your database, you know, maybe you pull up the tax record, especially those people that you know might be in an industry that's hurting right now. And so pull up that tax record and get in front of it, you guys, because they might be embarrassed and they don't want to talk to you about it. They don't want to tell you, Lisa, hey, I lost my job and I'm behind. When we went through the REO market, I remember going through our database at one point, and we had, so out of, I think we were about 4,000 people at that time, 5,000 people. There were 500 people who lost their house to foreclosure. Never even raised their hands, never even said, hey, Lynette, I'm in trouble. Can you help me? And so, you know, that was really a kick in the gut, right? And we had dropped the ball because we were so focused on surviving and navigating the REO market that we completely abandoned our databases. And so and the result was that 500 people went to foreclosure and we didn't even get a chance to help them. And so I share that because we're in a weird time right now, you guys. And I think that, you know, being a good agent is being a little bit forward thinking and go deeper with your database, right? Pull up the tax record. Let's take a look at what's really going on in their lives. Okay, so past and present relationships. Okay, so these are obviously buyers and sellers that we've worked with, maybe for sale by owners, maybe participants that you've had conversations with that you didn't actually do business with, could be renters. If you put somebody in a rental, you know, make sure you're having a conversation with them about, you know, the idea of buying, okay? And the thing about these guys is that they might do business with you again if you do a good job, right? But they might not. And so I have a great story about a client. He's not a client of mine, but he's a friend of mine, and he reached out to me a couple years ago about buying and selling. And I asked him, because I know the agent who represented him when he purchased that home. He's a great guy. He owns his own little boutique brokerage. He's a fantastic realtor, and actually was a Remax agent for a minute. And if you look at our spheres of influence on social media, they overlap, right? And so I asked Mike, I said, how come you're not reaching out to your previous agent? And he said, oh, he did a great job for us, we just can't remember who he is. And so this was probably just about 600,000 to $700,000 worth of real estate, that particular agent lost out on because he failed to stay in contact with Mike. And Mike admittedly said we would have used him again, but we just can't remember who he is. And so think about that for yourselves, right? How many people are in your database that we're not staying in contact with, that could be potential business? And so just be mindful of that. He lost out on that commission and 2 sales, right? The sale of the home and the purchase of the new build. So just be aware of that. Okay, so consistent mailers. So jumping back into the material, so let's talk about the 33 touch. So consistent mailers. So we have a newsletter, right? And so having a monthly newsletter that goes out. So your mailers need to be professional in appearance. Okay, they need to be of value to the recipient. And so this, you might think you have a great idea to send out, but it has no value to your database. So make sure that it has value to the recipient. Now, some of you have niches, right? And so you have to look at who's in your database. Do you have a demographic that's got up and coming kids, right? Growing kids? Do you have a demographic that's older people that are retirees? And so you have to look at who's in your database. For a long time, not for a long time, for several years, Nate's team did spring training games. That was our client event that we did every year, and we never got a really good turnout. And so we started evaluating it, and it was because we loved it and we could go to a spring training game at 1 o'clock on a Wednesday, but our database couldn't because they were all working or had kids. And so, you got to think about when you're doing this stuff, the events and the touches, is it relevant to the person receiving it? Okay. It needs to be consistent. So every 21 days, at least something once a month, right? That you're sending out, but professional, and also needs to represent you and your vibe, right? What you're putting out there. Examples of proven mailers. So some recipe cards, home ownership tips and articles. Could we be talking about interest rates right now? Inspirational stories. And so stories too of people in your database. We used to, in Nate's monthly newsletter, we used to, put if somebody had a baby or they retired or they had a graduation, like we were that intimate with our database that we would put those people in the newsletter and highlight them. So inspirational stories could be stories of inspiration about other people, but also really if try to find out stuff that's happening within your own database. Those are the inspirational stories we want to be telling. Maybe you got a frontline worker, or you have a police officer, or somebody, a veteran, somebody in your database that you could highlight, in your newsletter. Okay, so a monthly newsletter, there is some cost associated to that, but it's definitely worth it to have that touch. And if you need help, Orlando Diaz, our marketing guy, he actually is the one that puts together the company newsletter and Nate's newsletter. I don't know who else he's working with, but he definitely has some formats that you guys could employ his services to create that for you. Okay. Some other things in here. Let me move my slides. So sold properties, right? You could put that in your newsletter, highlighting your sales, right? Showing your success. Sales price to list price, educating them about the market. I think we need to be really careful. And some of you have heard me say this already, but it's been my theme for February, might be my theme for March, is we have got to stop having scarcity around the inventory, because what are we doing? We're creating more of what we don't want. And so we're pushing against it and talking about it, and we're putting out that vibe that, oh my gosh, there's no inventory, there's no inventory, there's no inventory. And the consumer is hearing it. They're hearing it and they're feeling it, and we're causing them to be scared and not make a move. There's a percentage of people that don't want to move right now anyways because of Corona. And then now we're out there talking about the scarcity and highlighting this, and how is talking about that serving us? It's not. Now, I'm not saying you don't educate your clients and let them know the reality of what's happening, but we also need to flip our thinking that in 2020 more homes were listed and sold than the previous year. And so, and I would guess that trend's going to continue this year, right? So we need to be talking about that versus the negative. Okay. And our vibe is all wrapped up in that. So if you get a new buyer and we're in scarcity, guess what? We're just going to create more of that. Okay. So be mindful of how you're messaging that. How about a book of the month? That would be a great one to do, especially right now with Corona. Recipes are always welcome. A quote of the month, homeowner tips, a maintenance tip is always a good thing, or a reminder to change your air filter, which is something we all forget to do, or clean out your laundry lint trap. I think Mario probably can tell us that I had heard one time that was the leading cause of house fires was lint in the dryer duct. So again, inspirational stories, real estate articles, things that are educational. And then could we do a client of the month, somebody who refers you the most? You could actually do this on social media too. You could have your top fan, which is kind of fun to do too. And then updates about your family. Share stuff about yourself. One of the things I love Danielle Martinez does in her monthly newsletter is she talks about her family, right? She shares a little bit about what's going on, and it's, it's relatable. It makes you human, and they want to know. We've just helped them with the biggest decision of their life at that moment, with buying or selling a home. And, they want to know more about you, right? We've become a part of their family. And so of course you got to be mindful and smart about it. You're not going to, air your dirty laundry, but you could share something positive about your life or something that you're interested in, a hobby or something that's important to you, right? That makes you relatable. So in the materials, you'll see the note that says a tier 1 agent, and tier 1 agent is someone who's new or newer. And I don't agree with that should not consider a monthly newsletter. I think that newsletters are a fantastic way to grow your database and to have a really good base that keeps you in contact with people. So too many agents do monthly newsletters and have tremendous success with it. So I disagree with that. There's a cost associated for sure. But, like I said, I disagree. I think that newsletters are relevant for anybody at any stage in the real estate. All right, so our monthly newsletter, that's 12 touches, right? And then you would have additional note cards and things going out. And then so we're moving on to our next touch. So there'd be at least 2 touches with birthday cards to both partners, both people in the household. If they have children, could you add that? Could you add pets? If somebody sent me a pet birthday card for one of my pets, I would be over the moon about that, because that's really taking the time to get to know someone and having intel in your database, right? And so, think about when you're doing birthday cards, who else can I do this to? If you can't afford to send out a birthday card, at least make a phone call. I can remember making one of my clients cry because I called her, and she had 6 children. I was the first one to call her on her birthday. And so, birthdays are important dates. And, with social media, you guys, you're getting the information right there. Okay. Father's Day and Mother's Day cards. So that's an additional 2 touches. So sending those out. And again, Grandparent Day, Step Parent Day. Let's take it to another level. And then a holiday card. And I don't care what holiday you choose. You don't have to do Christmas or the winter holidays. You could do Thanksgiving. You could do 4th of July. 4th of July might be kind of a fun, kind of different one, right? So doing at least 1 holiday card. And then thank you and thinking of you cards. And so sending out, so anytime you get a referral, obviously, I think we can all agree that we gotta say thank you and recognize that person. One of the things I always like to do when I get a referral is to send a thank you to their place of work. Because if I deliver something to their work as a thank you, what do you think is going to happen? Maybe not right now with Corona, but if they work at American Express, for example, and they get a bouquet of flowers or an edible arrangement from me, what's going to go down? The people that are around them in their cubicles are going to say, "Ooh, who's that from?" And they're going to say, "It's from my realtor." And then what are they going to say? They're going to say, "Well, gee, my realtor never did anything like that." And so think about when you're doing those recognitions of how to squeeze the orange. So how do I get the most bang for my buck out of this gift? Okay. So thank you or thinking of you cards, note cards, right? It should be sent out either when you get a referral and then when no referral's been sent, right? You haven't had any contact with them. Send a note. I've been thinking about you. Hope everything's going well. Okay. Telephone calls, so 4 touches. So this advocates once a quarter, actually talking to your people. And this, we're not even getting into doing client events, which, is advocated when, as a workman coach, we advocate 6 to 8 events per year. 6 to 8. And some of you might think, wow, that's a lot. And right now, obviously with the pandemic, we haven't been doing that, but 6 to 8. And here's how it could go down. You could do a quarterly happy hour. A quarterly happy hour could be around birthdays, could just be a happy hour, right? An annual holiday event, a shred event, a movie event. So you got 4 with the quarter, right? And then a holiday, that's 5. A movie event is 6, and a shred event is 7. So right there, you're right in that sweet spot. So it can be done. Is there a cost? Yeah. And any of you guys, if you're going to do client events, definitely reach out to our vendors, to your partners, and ask them to help pay for it, right? If you're giving a lender or a title company or a home inspector business, they are more than happy to help pay for client events, okay? So you don't have to shoulder all of the cost yourself. And you'd be surprised, a movie event is actually really affordable. It's not, when you do the cost per person, it's actually really affordable. One tip on movie events: make sure that it's obviously family friendly event, but also do it on opening weekend. If it's a big blockbuster like a Superman or any of those type of movies, you want to do it on opening weekends, so that people will come. Because if you wait, we've seen it happen when people doing events. The attendance is different than if it's on opening weekend, and doesn't cost you any more to do it on opening weekend. Okay, so once a quarter, we want to make sure we're doing phone calls, right? And I think after you talk to them, follow up with a note card. It was great speaking with you today, et cetera, et cetera. Depending on what was talked about, you might send them a book or some tip on something. Look for ways to connect and deepen those relationships. And, social media, you guys, gives us a great opportunity. Like I said, I've seen a couple apocalyptic posts from my client. Reach out, what's going on? What can I do? What can I do to help? Right? You see somebody who's raised their hand and said, oh my gosh, we're empty nesters now. Go buy a book on how to become an empty nester, and maybe send them a CMA to let them know what their house is worth, right? So, because maybe they're thinking about downsizing before the kids can move back, right? And same thing with, new babies or losses, job promotions, any of those things, that we have an opportunity to take that relationship and go deeper with it with social media. Because people are putting it out there, right? They're letting you know what's going on in their lives. And so in my mind, and this is how intimate I want to be with my database, is that I want to know, where are the kids at? How old are the kids? Because today, if you think about someone who has two children that are going off to college, how many real estate transactions are potentially in that relationship? 4. Think about it. Kids go to college, maybe they're both going to different cities. I want to help them buy a kitty condo, which is an FHA program, right? A kitty condo program. Buy the kids condos in the cities that they're going to college in, so they're not living in the dorms. It's an investment, right? Then mom and dad downsize, so we list their house and they buy. So potentially 4 transactions. And how, if I can make that happen, if I have that intel, right? That's where keeping all that stuff in my CRM is important. Okay. All right, so we already talked about that. All right, sample marketing pieces. This is not in your material, but I threw it in because I wanted you guys to kind of see. This is what Frank Russo's old newsletter looked like. And I love it because it's just a great example of something Orlando can create for you, and how custom and how it's flavored to the Russo team, right? And of course, Frank has since retired, but I think Jeff is still running the Russo team. So Frank would always write an article about real estate, and something custom that he would write that was specific to the time. And then on the inside, they'd have different things, how to connect with them. Obviously, we're not doing Zillow anymore. How to connect with Zillow, how to get a free evaluation for your home, right? Send them to your website to get information. And then they would do on the backside the evidence of their success, right? Of recent sales. And then, or I'm sorry, that's right here. These were their active listings, how to connect with them on social. And then on the back, when you get this in the mail, you see their recent solds, right? And then the caption there is four myths about real estate that would cause you to want to open it, right? So really good examples. And again, Orlando's the one that designed this, and so he can help you too. A couple more examples. This is Barb Henderson. Sorry, she's since changed the look of this and gone with the Remax Luxury Blue. I don't know if you guys know that, but Remax did a study a couple years ago of luxury home buyers and determined that the color was this really pretty blue color. So there's a code for any of those Remax colors. So Orlando has that, but if you guys wanted to use that Remax luxury color, it's actually a really pretty blue. So anyway, she switched to that. But she's been farming into Stetson Hills, and for a while, like, she had the lion's share of the deal of the transactions in there. And so customized to Stetson Hills, right? Everybody wants to see something that they recognize, right? And so that's one of the markers when you go into Stetson Hills. Now, this content right here, she's been doing this the same and I think it's going on 9 years. I think she's been farming in Stetson Hills. So active listings, active inventory that's under contract, pending, sold, a year-over-year comparison, and then the monthly median price. She has shared with me that she's walked into listing appointments and the homeowner has these stacked and that information highlighted as they're tracking the market, right? And they're reading the content. She's also had someone call her because there was the Sudoku puzzle over here. And I don't know how to do these, but they make my brain hurt, but I guess people like them. There was a mistake in the Sudoku puzzle and the person called to tell her that. And she called me and she was upset about it. And I said, don't be upset, Barb. That's good. That's a good thing, right? And so what we did, what I advised her to do is send a thank you to that person. And so take them a little gift that says, thank you for helping me have good quality control. So do you see the meat in that, you guys? It means the person was reading it. They took the time to call her. And then now we can wow that person with a thank you. And do you think that doing all that, if that person goes to sell, who are they going to think of? They're going to think of Barb, right? Because she's the neighborhood expert. Okay. So on her, she also advertises her active listings. Always some kind of a little blurb in here, just an article, a one-off article about something in the market. She also has done scholarships for science. So because Barb, I don't know if you guys know this, but Barb was a science teacher before she became a realtor. And so that's something that's passionate to her. And she sponsors someone in that particular school, the Sandra Day O'Connor. And then on the inside pages, so home or market analysis, couple solds, again, evidence of success, something from her lender, the recipe of the month, and then she always recognizes the thank yous of her clients. And in fact, we probably need to talk to her about her Zillow too, her referrals right here. And then in Stetson Hills, showing the last 90 days worth of sales, the homeowner co-owner, so things that are happening in the city. That's been kind of fun with the Corona, trying to find virtual events that are happening with no live events happening. And then client reviews, so again, evidence of success from the client. Oops, sorry. Let me go back. The shred event, she's now on her ninth event. And last time she did it, so a couple years in a row now, she's added Children's Miracle Network into that, the PCH, and getting donations. And I think 1 year she raised like $500 with people just giving cash donations, driving through and doing the shred. And then last year she had to get 2 trucks because there was such a turnout in Stetson Hills, and people start looking forward to this because, think about it. We all keep all of our freaking stuff that we don't need to keep. And so it's a great opportunity to give back to the community. And again, she gets her partners. So you can see that it was sponsored by her title company and her lender. Okay. So shred events are huge. That's a great way to pole vault your activity in a farm area if you're new farming. Kyle Clayton and the Clayton team, they farm a Moon Valley area, and same thing. I mean, huge. The shred event's huge, and so those are, and they're not that expensive, but it's got a really good touch. So something to think about, you guys, and it's something that's relevant for everybody because it's expensive to go take your crap to shred it somewhere. So if someone's willing to do it for free, think about the value of that. All right, so continuing on, this is a piece that Nate does. These are his just listed postcards. He runs this through a company called REM, Real Estate Marketing. David Collins, he's out of California. He actually is a REMAX approved supplier. They're not cheap. His monthly newsletter is about $1.89 to send out, but it's on really high gloss paper. It's a very professional looking piece. And of course, Nate farms in Blackstone, that's where he lives. So a little bit different quality or different caliber of person. And so you want to think about that with your marketing, right? You don't want to send a flimsy photocopied flyer out to a $700,000 homeowner, right? We want to make sure that we're speaking to the quality of who that is. So, years ago, my very first job in Phoenix, I worked for a guy named Louie, and he owned a farmer's insurance franchise, and his wife was in the office next to us, and she also sold insurance, but she sold insurance for people with dinged up motor vehicle reports, right? People who needed SR20s and things like that. And if you were to look at the two of them, she would come in wearing khakis and a polo. He would come in wearing a suit and tie. And one day we were having a conversation about it, and she said, if I wore suit and tie, I would put off my clients. They would be intimidated by that and they'd be uncomfortable because these are not clientele that are wearing suits and ties. Louis, on the other hand, if he came in wearing casual clothes like she was, would not be seen as the reputable insurance agent with the type of person he was working with. So I share that with you because we want to mirror our marketing, same thing. What's the caliber of the person, right? What's the message we're trying to send out? So David Collins is very protective of his format. So make sure don't copy this because it is his artistic stuff. So if you're interested, you can talk to me offline. I'll get you hooked up with REM. All right, so marketing examples again, continuing on. These are just some additional postcards that Nate does. And again, we don't all have Nate's budget to send out just listed postcards, and that's okay. Another tip I'll give you is that in your in Design Center, when you take a new listing, within a couple hours, you guys should be getting an email, and that email has a link to your Design Center, and it has a flyer. It has a postcard that you can print, a just listed postcard. It has a standalone single page website that you can push out to social. And it also has a YouTube link that you can push out to YouTube. Now, the video that goes out to YouTube is just all your photos basically strung together with some music behind it. And then it has your contact information and the property information. You will want to, you got to push it to YouTube. Then I would suggest you go in and do some edits in YouTube. It doesn't take very long, maybe 5 minutes to go in and kind of just make sure your YouTube, the content that's in your YouTube is correct. Okay. And there's some very specific things to have in YouTube. So you want to make sure that if you're going to use that you're doing it the way that it should. And then the other thing is when it goes sold, you need to go either take it down or change the address to say sold, so that you're not promoting or advertising a property that's not available. And also, so you get all that stuff. Now, another tip on that is that you'll want to make sure that you're using your best photos first so that you don't have to do any edits, because it pulls your first 5 to 10 photos for the flyer and postcard, et cetera, et cetera. So I know we're used to kind of creating like a storyboard in MLS with our photos. We start on the outside, then we go inside, we, create that little flow. But if you're doing that, it's okay. If you do that, you'll just have to make edits to your flyer because that might not be the photos that you want to use on that. Okay. And then also remaxhustle.com. They just rolled out a new video component in there that you can edit and then do some advertising. So make sure you guys bookmark that. There's so much great content on remaxhustle.com, and they just keep giving us more. And so it doesn't take long to edit those things. And even the other one that they had, the commercial you could do for your listings, takes like 2 minutes to make. And it's super cool looking, and it's the right size for social media, all that stuff. Okay, so remaxhustle.com. All right, so a couple more examples. This is a birthday card that Nate sends out through Send Out Cards. And then they also have done I don't know if they're still doing this, but sending out cookies from these cookies from home. I think that's what it's called, or a gourmet gift tray. And so, the cookies, so the cookies have a good touch. The thing that might get held on to is this 10, the gift box, right? And so, because I don't know about you, but when I get a 10, I hang on to them. I may not use it, but I hang on to them for some reason, right? Same thing with baskets, right? We hang on to them. So when we think about marketing, think about shelf life. And so how much shelf life does this have? Well, cookies have enough shelf life, is long enough for how long it takes to eat them, right? The 10 has a little bit more shelf life, but you want to think about things like the Twinkie. Think about a Twinkie. It never expires. How disgusting is that? It never expires, and yet we saved this company. We saved the Twinkie from going bankrupt. So when we think about marketing, I want you to think about how long is it going to what's the shelf life? A magnet has, as long as the shelf life could be as long as they live in the home or as long as that refrigerator is alive, right? Magnets, once they go on refrigerators, they don't get taken off, right? And so magnets have good shelf life. Things that are branded or customized to them have good shelf life. So just, we want to think about that. And then the other thing you want to think about is what's the call to action. So what am I wanting, if they receive this, what am I wanting them to do with it? Okay. I just wanting them to hang on to it and keep it forever to keep my name around. Great. So you got to think about Twinkie, shelf life, and then what's the call to action. All right, so we're not going to role play, obviously, because we're on a Zoom call, although I could put you guys in breakouts, but I'm not going to do that to you. So in your materials on page 9 is the permission script, okay? So it's basically just, hey, this is Sarah with Remax Professionals. How's the family? How's your job? The reason I am calling is because I attended a seminar the other day and learned every person I know will know 5 people this year who will want to buy or sell real estate. That got me thinking, why don't I put together a list of people I know who wouldn't mind helping me grow my business? And your name is one of the first names that came to mind. Would you be offended if I put you on that list? And then there might ask what's involved. All it is requires that you let me know when you hear of someone wanting to buy or sell a home, and that you refer my name to people asking if you know a good realtor. I will also want to stay in contact with you through the mail, email, whatever you're doing. Maybe even give you a phone call now and then. Are you okay with that? They're going to say yes, right? And then, so great. What's your birthday? How about your spouse? And I would even get anniversaries, an anniversary, and also anniversary of their purchase, right? Because now I can send them an unsolicited CMA. If it was a new build, reminder to do their 1-year punch, right? Or maybe they need to up their home warranty, right? And so it's just another touch of can you believe that it's been a year, right? Where else was I going with that? So unsolicited CM, so anniversaries, wedding anniversaries or relationship anniversaries, got to be really mindful and pay attention to those, because it sucks when you send an anniversary card and you find out they got divorced. So that's not having a good intel on your database, right? Because we should stay in contact with people and know what's going on in their lives, okay? That has happened to me more than once. Same thing too about people passing away. That's never fun when you send a birthday card or something and then you find out the person passed away. So that just means that, we were not paying attention. We weren't paying attention and staying in contact enough. All right, so wrapping up, and then we're going to jump into what farming looks like and some scripts and dialogues around that. So how do we set this up? Obviously, we've got to have a list. I think all of you have probably heard me talk about top 50, but top 50 is basically 50 people that have either done business with you or would do business with you if you asked. Okay, Jess, you're new, right? And so you got to get into the space of would they do business with me, and then ask, right? Those of us that have been around a minute, have they done business with me and have they referred me? Top 50 is meant to be fluid and organic. These people are not tattooed on your arm, so we can kick them off our list. We can add to, okay? I think before you kick someone off the list, though, I think you need to ask the question of why haven't they referred me, and find out. Some people, Sherry, will never refer you. Great, then you're not on my top 50, okay? And if you guys think about this, if you had 50 people that you love the hell out of every single month, and the goal would be to get one referral from each of those people, you'd have more business than you know what to do with. And so you don't need to go out and buy leads. You don't have to go out and look at what's happening with Zillow, right? It's kicking all of our butts because we bought leads from Zillow. Okay, and so if you had 50 people who were evangelical about you, running around every day, Lisa, talking about how great Lisa Bray is, you'd have more business than you know what to do with. So, and don't, people say, well, I don't know 50 people. I would challenge you to go look at your social media, because 50 people. The average person knows 250 people well. Okay, so challenge yourself to get in there and create that top 50. Make your initial call, right? If you haven't talked to them in a while, definitely could be the permission, not just the permission, but the apology. And you could Google that. I think Brian Buffini's got a letter on the apology that's out there on the internet. Input the names in your database program. I don't care what you're using, but make sure you have something. Mail, it's the 8 and 8, which I'm going to touch on that in a few minutes. And then a thank you or thinking of you. Okay, make it a goal. Make it a goal to send 5 out a day. Send 5 note cards out, and let people know. Use that script. The average person will know 5 people. Here's 5 of my business cards. I'd love to be top of mind. Okay, so sending those out. Back in the day when I coached with Buffini, it was a goal to do 5 a day. And if you didn't do 5 today, that meant you had to do 10 tomorrow. And so it was sometimes it was very challenging to send out a thank you card every single day. And then wait a month and start your phone calls. And so again, making calls once a quarter. And then how do we layer in, what are safe ways to do pop buys right now? Pop buys should be huge, and getting in front of people, sending something out every quarter, getting in front of them. Okay. With the pandemic the way it is, people are craved for interaction. They're craved for, just being around people. Right. And so I have a client that I coach in Michigan, and you guys, I don't know if some of you may not know this, but Michigan real estate was not essential. And so they were shut down literally that whole entire time that we were shut down last year. And my clients, they they pivoted and they always do big client events. Like that's their bread and butter. And they have, when I say big client events, they have hundreds of people come to their events. And of course we couldn't do that. Right. And so they had, they did May Day. They implemented that, and then they did Arbor Day. And so they gave out on Arbor Day, they gave out little seedlings, and they did a drive-through style. So people drove up and picked up their little seedling, and it was snowing. It was crazy weather, but they stayed, they held to it. And then we put May Day in there, which was not something we had considered doing. And the cool thing about this, you guys, so how many of you know about May Day? May Day back in the day was you would ring people's doorbells and you would leave a basket of flowers or some kind of a goodie. And, you weren't supposed to be seen. So you would ring the doorbell and run, right? So it was a surprise. And I don't know the origin of it, but I remember doing it as a kid. And so they decided to implement that. And here's what happened is they're super loud on social media. These guys, like their social media is like, there, if you want to follow somebody on social media who's doing it right, go follow them. So anyway, on their social, somebody who follows the Facebook page lives in Florida, has never done business with them, but she has 2 children that live in the same town. So she reached out to my clients and said, hey, my kids are super depressed about the pandemic and being locked down. We're not clients of yours, but would you mind sending them a May Day basket? And what do you think my client said? Hells yes, we'll do that, right? Because now they got 3 new people in their database, and the mom owns real estate in that town. And so, yeah, so they went and delivered May Day baskets to 2 complete strangers, all because of social media. And it was a huge win. I mean, that was a huge win. And so think about ways that you can get in front of people that's safe, right? And doing your pop buys. I delivered Thanksgiving pies, and I hadn't done that for years. And, some of you don't know that I wasn't selling real estate when I lived in Prescott. So now that I'm back in Surprise, I'm trying to get back into the swing of things. And I delivered pies. It was so much fun getting out there and seeing people that I hadn't seen for a while that, I'd sold real estate to. And it was, I think I did 11 or 12 pies, and I only missed like 2 people. Everybody else was home, and I had great conversations with them to the point where I was like, I gotta go. I gotta deliver more pies. And so yeah, don't overlook the power of those pop buys, because they're super critical, even, and I would say even more so right now. All right, so let's shift gears and talk about the 8 and 8. So the 8 and 8 was actually created by a company called Hobbs and Herder. Some of you know who that is. It's a big marketing company out of California. And Hobbs and Herder they created this campaign, one for buyers and one for sellers, and they sent it into a neighborhood with a fictitious realtor. So clearly no one did business with this person because they didn't exist. At the end of the campaign, they surveyed those people, and the majority of those people said that they would hire that realtor. And so when we look at the 8 and 8, it's not designed for you to make edits to. Okay, it's very specific languaging. And Orlando has this mapped out. Is what we did is you'll see on the cards, and I'm not going to go through each of them. It's in your guys' materials, and it's also in Design Center. But Orlando took this content, and what we did is we actually created, because if you look in Design Center, that back side of it is just a Remax slogan. So we actually had Orlando set the backside to something that was a graphic that was specific to the content that's on the postcard. Okay, so he's got those already done. It is an investment, you guys, but could you use the 8 and 8 in a farm area and kick off your farm area? Absolutely. And that's what it's designed to do, is to help pole vault that. You don't want to make edits. Again, language is very specific, designed by a marketing company that knows more than we do. But it is an investment, because the concept is that you would send out one postcard every single week for 8 weeks, and then you drop back to a monthly touch. So if you would have to budget it out, right? Budget it out so that if you're going to do 250 homes in a farm area, what's the cost going to be for 8 weeks, and pay for it. Because if you get halfway through it and you stop, you've just wasted your money. Okay. So don't jump in and say, I'm going to do it, and do it half-assed. You need to do it all the way. Otherwise it's a waste. Okay. Or don't do it at all. Now, another way you could take this is you could take the 8 and 8 verbiage, and you could do it on social and create some boosted ads using this verbiage and target people on social, and then see how that works for you. Okay, so just be mindful of that. And like I said, Orlando's got it set, or you could take it to somebody if you wanted to have them do it, but just make sure you don't do any edits. I actually had an agent take it to a title rep, and the title rep was like, well, this is pretty strong language, and wanted to make edits to it. And again, that's not the objective here. Okay. So in your guys' materials, you'll see postcard 1, 2, all the way through for both buyers and sellers. So on the postcard, So it's very specific, right? So before listing your home, and then the next one is the complete thorough needs analysis. The next one is pricing. Okay, so it kind of walks through each of the steps that a seller might be thinking about when selling their home. Okay, so you have the postcards, and then the same thing with the buy sides. So what I think is a great idea for buy sides is go into an apartment complex, market into an apartment complex, right? And send those postcards, because those people who are paying $1,500 a month for rent, what is that in a house purchase? It's about three. Well, with interest rates as low as they are, that could be a $375,000 purchase, right? And depending on what kind of down payment they have. So the same thing you could do for people renting homes. Get in there and do a search. You pull Arrowhead Ranch and look at all the rentals in there, and anybody who's kind of at that 8-month mark, maybe start marketing to them. If they're paying $2,000 a month in rent, maybe we should talk to them about buying, right? At the very least, help them get their credit fixed so that they can buy in a couple years. Okay, so in your materials are all of the postcards. As I said, Orlando has them, and then they're also on Design Center for you. Okay, I see you guys are putting stuff in the chat. So May Day was a big thing in the Midwest. Yeah, okay. The Valentine's Day letter went out, or Mario, and you got good feedback. I didn't get any feedback on that one. I got feedback on the Christmas one that had the holiday events. That was a good one. So, all right. Any comments, any questions? I'm going to switch gears, and we're going to talk about using the 8 and 8 and what does a farm area look like. All right. Sherry, I need to send you the materials. There we go. All right. So this one, your class materials are going to say marketing. But again, I changed the name to no, I guess I didn't change the name, Marketing Bootcamp. It's pretty self-explanatory, right? Okay, so we talked about the 33 touch to your database. And then we touched on the 8 and 8. I probably personally wouldn't send the 8 and 8 to my database to people who already know me, like me, trust me. I would, though, send it to a farm area and or use it on social to kind of create some additional interactions on social media. And like I said, at rental pool, you could do that too. So if we took the 8 and 8 and we decide we're going to do a farm area, we decide we're going to commit to that, what does that look like? And so when we're farming, there's some very specific things that you need to do in order to be successful at farming. So we want to teach you 4 intentional and proven approaches to creating additional relationships. Okay, and the expectation is that you'll have enough confidence to go out and start doing that if that's what you want to do. And again, a farm is an investment, you guys. So it may not be something that you're ready to do right now, and you need to commit to at least a year. Have the funds to commit for a year. And what we advocate in Momentum is starting out with 250 homes. If you talk to Nate, he would tell you to cast a wider net, but for most of us, 250 is manageable and it's affordable. Okay. So you need to plan and budget for at least 12 months. If you talk to some other big farm people, they'd tell you 2 years. But I have seen with people doing the 8 and 8, as early as 3 months of getting somebody raising their hand and saying, hey, I'm interested. Okay. The other thing with farm areas is I personally think you need to take a physical presence. And what do I mean by that? Get involved. If there's an HOA, if there's a school, if there's a community stuff, can you go around on, when people have the community, yard sales and bring donuts? Maybe you don't do that during a pandemic, but could you do something like that? Or branded bottles of water that you hand out, right? And so taking a physical presence, get involved. If there's a school in the community, sponsor the girls basketball team or sponsor the baseball team, have a physical presence in there. So it's not just passively waiting. So if you think about direct mail marketing, you're sending out 250 pieces of mail. How many of you stand at your trash can in your garage and throw crap away and it never even makes it into the house? And so we're speaking to a very small percentage of people who who might be thinking of selling their home. And so when we take a physical presence, we're injecting ourselves into that community and making ourselves be seen a little bit more than just that postcard that's going out every single month. Okay. So just kind of something to noodle on. Okay. Obviously, the result of this is that we would have additional closings. And of course, farm, these are new people, could be buyers and sellers, or mostly sellers, but could be buyers too, because, you put up a listing, you could have buyers come as a result of that. Or you should, if we're doing the right marketing. Yard sign, your home ads, the internet, and just listed, just sold. The other thing too is kind of been a theme this month in coaching is controlling the market. And when we talk about having no inventory, I've had some clients of mine admit to me that there are some properties that they list that they don't do any marketing on because they don't have to. And, Roberta Voss the other day joked and said, I don't even have to put a sign up because it sells, I don't have to. And that's bad. Right? I know Roberta was joking, but my client that I coach, they're in the Kansas City market. They have 3 buyers agents on their team. And so when we talk about for every listing, we should generate 6 to 8 leads, they push back on me all the time. But that's not happening. Well, when we started diving into it, if you're not marketing your listing, and you're not controlling the market, meaning that I'm trying to expose it to not only get buyer leads, but more importantly, get seller leads, that's a problem, right? And so how do I control the market? Well, in Phoenix, we can do a coming soon for 30 days, right? So could you do a coming soon, Lisa, on Monday, and then set an open house for Friday or Saturday, Sunday, put in the MLS that we're not reviewing offers until Monday or Tuesday. And then we have that time to market it during the week. And then we have the open house. Now we're getting leads from the open house. If you got a buyer's agent, they should be sitting that open house. And then we canvas. In my mind, a new listing has 4 canvas opportunities. We canvas coming soon, right? So Monday we go walk 10, 10, 20. We're not talking about 250 homes. We're talking about 40, 10 on either side of the property, 20 across the street. And maybe you don't door knock today because of the pandemic. Maybe you do. That's all going to be your personal preference. What you feel safe with, but could you still do a flyer and leave that flyer on the doorstep? Absolutely. Right. Coming soon. And maybe you put a little note about the open house, right? Great time to pick your neighbor. And then for the open house, we canvas again. I love the idea of telling them, hey, sorry, there's going to be some extra traffic on the street today, but it's a great time to pick your neighbor. Some people have even started implementing where the first hour of the open house is only for neighbors. The neighbors can come through and see the property. And then when it goes under contract, I'm going to canvas again, 10, 10, 20. And in that pending, I'm telling the story, right? Because if we get multiple offers or something unique happens in that sale, I want to tell that story, not disclosing what the house sold for, because that's not public information, but I'm telling the story of what I did to help represent that client, right? And I'm not trying to get buyers here. I want to impress those 40 neighbors that this is what I do differently, right? And if any of them have an inkling of thinking of selling, and I come around 4 times, do you think that that's going to put me in their mind's eye if they're thinking about selling? Yes, it is. Okay. The 4th time is when it sells. That's when I'm going to disclose what I sold it for. Okay. So 4 unique opportunities, and can we control the market kind of doing that plan, right? And that way we can ensure that our buyers agents are getting leads. We're marketing to the sellers around the area so that they can see how we do things different. It helps protect our commissions because we're actually working and doing stuff that shows the seller that, hey, we're worth getting paid our commission. And then it educates the public, right, about what's happening in the market. Okay. So definitely think about just sold, just listed. And again, I realize that we don't have to spend the money because the market is what it is. But I think by not doing that, we're eroding our industry. We're eroding our value as realtors. and ultimately, we're not doing a good job to represent the industry and our clients. Okay. So in your guys' materials on page 4, throughout momentum, you'll see these financial consequences. So this is someone who's patient and systematic when it comes to farming. Okay. So when we look at the first year, again, advocating 250 homes. So you have 250 touches. And this is saying about a 50-cent cost. I think that's pretty, a pretty neutral average cost. You might be able to do it a little bit cheaper. I know there's some title companies that will print jumbo postcards for like 15 cents a piece. Definitely talk to Barry with Mag's Mail. He's one of our preferred vendors. He's the one that does the bulk of printing for Nate. And you can find his contact information in the monthly newsletter. He's a great guy. He's local, and he'll beat any price that you find out there. Okay. So 250, we'd have 3,000 total touches. So an investment of $1,500, and then a 1% conversion rate. That seems really low, right? But again, you guys, you're talking about a small percentage of people who are going to be thinking about moving. Okay. And not as small, it's 5 to 7 is what we're going to advocate that you're looking at. And I'll get into that a little bit more. So the goal would be out of those 3,000 mailers, we could do 3 additional transactions. And again, our average sales price is about double of that. So do, 300,000 times 3, what the volume is there. Okay. So about $1 million in real estate, and then having your average commission, what your average commission is. Okay. And then that would give you, in this example, 13,500. And then we would want to reinvest 25% of that to grow the farm. So then you can see in year 2 that we grow it, and we're up to 313. And then you can see as it goes on that by year 5, you're up to almost 3,600 homes. And you can see the GCI growing significantly. That almost doubles, more than doubles what was happening in year 4. Okay. So starting out small, 250 homes, manageable, right? Affordable, and then growing that. And so this doesn't even take into consideration the 6 to 8 leads that hopefully we're generating from having 3 additional listings. Okay. Or the buy side, the buyer, the other sellers that call you as a result of your canvassing and your farming in that area, your farming and marketing. Okay. From having that sign up. Okay, so the no do have of a smart farm. So obviously we got to have a prospects, right? We got to have our 250 homes in that area. And then what is a smart farm system? So we're going to use the 8 and 8 to kind of kick off the farm. Then we have neighborhood update cards. So once a quarter, sending something out. You could have a neighborhood website if you want. I would say that might be a little advanced for some people to have an actual website. However, could you have a Facebook community page? And then drive your website, go buy the URL on GoDaddy and then point that to the Facebook page. That's a good way to keep in contact with people. And I love when Facebook pages, when people check in, and the best is when, not the best, but it's the best interaction is when someone's pet goes missing. And that part's not good, but that's not the best. But when someone's pet goes missing and they put it out on those pages, that page blows up, right? And it's just more ways for people to see you. And so, Facebook is a good place to have a website, but not actually have the website. Now, with your Bouge stuff, if you're using your Remax stuff, which hopefully all of you at least have it customized and out there, even if it's not your primary website, because it does still drive traffic to you. On that, you could create a page that's for that community, and it's housed on your Bouge site. So that's something that Alex can help you out with. And I think he is in the process of creating specific content for different cities in Phoenix. And then I believe that the future of that is subdivisions as well within those cities. So he's got a whole plan there. So, and then obviously we want to track what we're doing. We're going to talk more about that. And then knowing our turnover rate, and then some dialogues. Okay. Some scripts and dialogues. So this is one of the postcards. Obviously the Remax balloon's been updated, but if you look in Design Center, this is one of the layouts for the 8 and 8, and this is just one of the national slogans. Like I said, I would go to Orlando and look at what Orlando's created, because it's a little bit more custom. And that's how it looks on the back side. So you have, your contact information and then the verbiage here. Okay, so this is how it's laid out. All right, so the smart farm. So why do we want to mail? Make sure I'm on my right page here. So we want to have something that's working for your business when you're not, right? We want to have that farm just kind of keep churning and generate business. Okay. So what to mail? So again, 8 and 8, and then a monthly touch. So the monthly could be a neighborhood update, right? That these are the homes that have sold. As you get going with it, then you're going to have a just listed, so just sold, your open houses, have other things that are start to canvas. Then you could do a quarterly update. So there's a lot of different ideas of things that you can do that's a touch, but it definitely, I would encourage you to have some kind of market update in there, so you're educating them about what's going on. Where to mail, obviously having that 250 people in the farm, and then mail, right? Could you use social media, door knocking, get involved in things that are in the community. Okay. And then when, so at least once a month, right? Once a month, and then the 8 and 8 for the first 8 weeks. Okay. And then once a month, and then once a quarter. Okay. I mean, if you look at Barb's newsletter, she does that newsletter into Stetson Hills, and it's very specific to Stetson Hills. And so could you do a newsletter? A little bit more of a cost than just a postcard, but it's definitely, you know, when you look at her return on investment, she makes money off of that thing, okay? So less information on the card is more likely to be read. So here's just a really basic example in your materials of what a postcard could look like, right? And you got to be careful when you're talking about market updates. You can't advertise the listing if it's not your listing or you don't have permission, but you could put, you know, 3-bedroom, 2-bath, 1,500 square feet actively on the market at 325. You could put that in there. You just can't put the address. In this example, it just talks about the homes that are sold, which you can put the sold properties because that's public information. Just active and pendings, you can't. Okay. This one doesn't even have the addresses, right? It's just how many have sold, how many are available, what the average sales price is, and the average list price. And then for more details, contact me. Okay. So really, really basic information. On the front side of the postcard, could you do a picture of you or a picture of the neighborhood, something that's, you know, stands out to them. All right, and then quarterly farming postcards. Again, you got an example on page 8 of this. So, you know, could you do this, you know, like I said, once a quarter? And then why list with Susie Q? Because the results speak for themselves. And so the average agent, you know, 99% is her list price to sales price, or 98.3, and then average days on market. So when you think about average days on market, 63, obviously ours are a lot less right now, but 63 days versus 142, that's significant. And if you think about someone who's got kids and pets, and maybe they work from home right now and trying to sell their home, and you say, hey, I can get the job done in more than half the average person, that's significant. And that's an important factor for a potential seller. Okay. And then including in there that the results are not by coincidence, they're by design. Okay. And the 7-step strategy is actually the pricing class that Momentum has, and that is a trademark. And so when you take that class, you can actually put that in your marketing stuff, is that you're using a 7-step strategy, TM, which unless you've taken Momentum, I don't even know if anybody who's taken that class with me with Momentum uses it, but would that make you stand out in a listing appointment or on postcards? Absolutely, right? Because people say, well, what's this trademark thing that makes you look like you know what you're doing, and you've got an edge on the competition. So look for that class when it comes up, and then contact her today to learn to be a true difference between properties being listed and being sold. Okay. So quarterly, could you send something like this out? Absolutely. All right. So dialogues. Let me make sure here. Second. Did I miss it? Hold on, I'm looking for something real quick before I go through the dialogues. Must have missed it. Hold on. Where is it at? Well, shoot. Okay, I did. Hold on. Let me go back. I missed this. On this slide here, if you guys go back to the materials on page 6, sorry, I went going on a rabbit hole here. On page 6, so in the section of where to mail to, this is super important. I'm sorry that I missed over that. So when we're looking at the neighborhood, we want to have a potential turnover rate of 5 to 7%. It says 5 in here. 5 is your baseline. Okay, 7 is better. Okay, so if you say there's 100 homes, do quick math in my head. 100 homes, that'd be 50 to 70 homes that are right. Am I right with that? No, that'd be 1,000 homes. So whatever the number is, if you're doing 250, you need to see 5 to 7% that are selling every year. Okay. If you're farming to an area where people move in and they stay there till they die, then you're not going to have the same results, right? So you want to look at a neighborhood that has good turnover rate. So where things are turning. Okay. In the last 12 months. Okay. So 5%. And then it makes sense for your sales price. And I think in my mind, if I was going to start a new farm, I want to try to get in that sweet spot. Not only is it a good turnover, but it's also the average sales price, right? Because there's a lot of people that are in that, $300,000 price point, right? That are having a hard time finding homes, but those homes fly off the shelves. But at 300,000, you're still making a decent coin on commission. And so it needs to make sense that how much it's going to cost you to farm in there. What's your return on investment? And the rule of thumb, it's not in the materials, but the rule of thumb is 3 to 4 times it should be your ROI. Okay. So if you spend 1,000, you want to make 3 to 4,000 in order for it to make sense. Okay. So that's important numbers to have. And then you want to make sure it's not being dominated by any other agent. Okay. So how do I find that out, Megan? I would go in the MLS, and when you pull that the sales for the year, skim through and see if anybody's got the lion's share of those recent sales. If somebody's got two, probably I wouldn't say that they necessarily are farming in there. Just they might have been a fluke, right? They got a sign call from the neighbor and listed their house, or maybe they know 2 people in that neighborhood. So you want to look and see if somebody dominating it, because the chances are that they're farming in there, and I'm not going to say it's impossible, but it would be more difficult for you to come in and try to take the lion's share from them. Okay. So you want to make sure that those things, okay, potential 5 to 7 in the last 12 months, good sales price, good average sales price that has a desirable ROI, 3 to 4%, and then it's not dominated by anybody else. Okay, so those are critical parts to the farm that I missed when we were on that slide. So I apologize. All right, so back to, we're not going to role play. But your dialogue. So looking at your quarterly phone call. So same thing, anytime that we're talking about making phone calls and getting that type of intel from services like Red X or Vulcan or any of those other companies that are out there, make sure that you're following the do not call rules. Okay, because the last thing you need to do is get put out of business because of a violation on that. And I don't know about you guys, but I've been inundated with like every coalition out there. I donated to the police and fire like 2 years ago, and I think I did it this year, and all of a sudden my name's gotten on every coalition out there. So I'm getting all these people calling me, and so I'm like, I'm a realtor, I need to be able to answer by phone, but I haven't been wanting to because it's always someone asking for money. So make sure you're following the do not call rules. Okay. So hi, this is Sarah with Remax Professionals, and I am simply calling around the neighborhood to see if anyone you know at this time might be interested in buying or selling. Have you been receiving my monthly postcards? Do you find that information beneficial? What other information would you find helpful? Have you ever considered selling your home? And then thanks for your time. Hope you have a great day. Okay. And then the next script is, since interest rates are at a near all-time low, they are at an all-time low right now. I've 24 years of doing this. I've never seen them that low. I am simply calling to ask if you're interested in leveraging yourself into a new home. I would have to sell my home first. Well, it would be my pleasure to help you with the sale of your home. But first I would need to come out and ask you a few questions so I can prepare a proper set of pricing tools. And then you would get into gathering the information on your pre-listing. If they say no, then do you know anyone who would like to take advantage of the low interest rates? And so, these are pretty direct, right? Of door knocking and basically asking them, hey, are you thinking about buying or selling? But could you ask the question, first, hey, this is Sarah with Remax. I was just checking to see if you're getting my monthly postcards, and then start the dialogue from there, right? And maybe change the approach a little bit, because that's pretty direct. And for some of you, it definitely is very direct. Okay, so we read that one. So websites, so neighborhood websites. So I think you could parlay this too, even on social media, on your Facebook stuff. You could put these types of posts. So valuable information, keeping matters current. You guys, I think it's like $30 a month. You can have it customized to you, but you don't even have to pay for it. You can just go to their website and grab the links and push that content out. If you want it custom to you, which is obviously looks really nice, and like I said, it's about $30 a month, but that website has a ton of really great relevant content. Riz Media, also, I would subscribe to theirs. They push it every day. I'm getting multiple emails from them with great content that can be pushed out to social. And then neighborhood, and if you're blogging, obviously you want to put that stuff out on your social as well, or if you're doing video blogs. Neighborhood pricing, tax advantages, property taxes, right? How to contest property taxes, any kind of mortgage information, mortgage updates, interest rates. Nate's been pushing that stuff out on the inner circle with the interest rates in that weekly. So there's 2, right? He's been doing the interest rates, and then also the Maricopa County coming soons and stuff like that. So you guys use that content. That's when we put it out there, that is for you to use. If you want to take it a step further and customize it, you can. They're working on trying to create a program where we can customize content for you guys on social. It's so look for that to come. There'll be some announcements about that, I would guess, here soon. But in the meantime, use what's getting pushed out on the inner circle, because that's all content that makes you look like the expert in real estate. Vendor updates. So we all have great vendors, right, in our list of recommendations. And I love when we send out emails in the company and all the content that comes. Rick Ramirez is fantastic. I think that guy has a name for every industry out there of great vendors. Any advertisements or testimonials, people like seeing that stuff. Your personal listings and selling statistics. Again, use the stuff on Design Center that gets pushed out to you. You get a postcard when it's listed, when it's pending, and when it sells. And then free lists, right? Anything that you can push out that's free content, first-time home buyers, first-time home sellers, maybe retirees, investment, snowbirds. I mean, there's tons of stuff that you can push out. Inspirational stories. And then recipes, and again, neighborhood activities. So things that are happening, first day of school, community yard sales, block parties, anything that's happening that you could, push out there that keeps people aware of what's happening in the neighborhood. All right. So on page 11, here's another financial consequence. So this is being an effective marketer, okay? So again, all of us wish we had 20 listings right now, right? But in the materials, the example is 20 listings. And if you were to get 10 calls per listing, so that's kind of right there with that 6 to 8, that would give you an additional 200 talks per year. And if you were at a 15% set rate, so your 15% conversion rate, you could set 30 appointments. And if you only went on half of those, that would give you an additional 15 appointments, and at a 45% conversion rate, which I think is pretty low. I think most of you are, when you get in front of someone, if you're prepared and you have the right scripts and dialogues, you're probably landing more than that. The national average for listing appointments, this is not people who know you, like you, and trust you, but if it's a cold person that you're farming in an area, all they know about you is your monthly pieces, it's about 65%. Is the conversion rate nationally. Okay, so meaning if I go on 100 appointments, I should land 65% of those. Okay. But in this example, being real conservative at 45%, that would give you an additional 7 closings from having 200 conversations. And again, if you do the math, what's 300,000 times 3 apples? It's $9,000 times 7. That's a significant boost in income. And again, that's not taking into consideration the other stuff, right, that comes from those 10 the other 10 people, the other 9 people, right, out of that stuff that are other opportunities there. Okay, so being a good marketer. And again, I know in our market we don't have to, but I really think that that's shooting a lot of us in the foot by not doing it. All right, so successful people possess goals, plans, they have and strategies. So they have a GPS, right? And so we have market, right? We have our yard signs, and then and I don't like the word label the color, but we're going to identify where the person is in the process. Okay, so we're going to go over 3 different dialogues, and then we're going to talk about tracking. Tracking is super important, especially if you're going to pay for farming. I mean, you need to know if you're paying for something and you don't know what the ROI is, then we need to have a conversation because we need to know. Some things we do because we have to do it, right? And like Facebook, to me, we post, but it's almost impossible to really track what's coming from Facebook, right? Although, I mean, I got a message the other day from somebody on Facebook that's in my sphere, and she asked me to run comps on her house, and they're a couple years out, but maybe not. I gave her some advice about how she could make a move now, and so that was through Facebook. But if you're paying for Facebook, it's kind of hard to quantify sometimes with that, but it's important. Now, if it's something like farming and you're farming an area and you're not getting anything, then obviously you want to, have a serious conversation about what is it that I'm sending out, and why is it not working? Okay. So just be mindful of that. Don't keep, what is it saying? Definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting different results. So kind of the same thing with marketing. All right, so within momentum, one of the things I love is the core beliefs. These are kind of like affirmations. And so let's take 30 seconds and read through those, and then we'll have a little conversation about them. All right. So what do we think about these affirmations? Personally, number 2 is one of my affirmations I say every day. And it has a lot of meat to it because it's not just about work, but to live in a world of abundance, creates feels good, right? And it transcends into other areas of life. It's not just about making money. What else stands out to you guys? Looks like I lost a few of you.
Number 1 for me.
Okay. There's no growth without discomfort. How come?
Because sometimes I get comfortable in what I do and I do every day, when that's probably not the goal. The goal is to be uncomfortable, meet more people, go on listings that I don't have nailed. A lot of different things for me. So that's probably one of the biggest for me.
Awesome. I love it. Yeah, get in front of more people, right? Stretch yourself, get outside of just working your family and friends, right?
Yep.
My favorite is the market does not and will not determine my income.
Yes. Yeah. One of my best years I had in real estate was when the sky was falling. And, I sold 2 $700,000 houses that year, got my name in the paper in Peoria because nothing was selling for that price when the market was crashing. So yeah, I think that's a super important one, because especially right now when everybody's running around in this scarcity, that there's no inventory, right?
Did I tell you, did I tell you the story of my daughter-in-law? She works at a bank and she had a real estate agent come into the check her bank account. And she was freaking out, like, because the market was terrible. My daughter-in-law calls me. She's like, "Is everything okay?" Kind of sounds like a mindset problem to me.
Yeah. Was that recent?
No, that was probably about a year and a half ago or so. But
Interesting.
I was just like, I said, I go, she's in her own little world. I said, that's not how I work,
Yeah, absolutely. So that's a great story. I remember one time I was in Safeway right there by the Arrowhead office, and I had my Remax sweatshirt on, and I was checking out a Safeway, and the lady saw the balloon and she goes, "Oh, you're in real estate. I'm sorry." So of course I had to stop what I was doing in that moment and educate her about why. And that was when the market was really shitty during the recession, and I had to educate her about why it was still a good time to buy a house. So yeah, it's kind of funny people's perceptions of that. Okay, so one on here too is, I think, number 8, is that it's unacceptable for my business to earn $0. Or you could even take that and say it's unacceptable for my business to earn less than what your goal is of how much income you want to earn. Okay. And the more time that we can, think about these core values, the more time we spend with it, the more that they become reality, right? Leverage is the key to abundance. Okay. So win or no deal. And lastly, on there, cost is only an issue in the absence of value. And so when we think about that if I'm sitting in front of a potential seller and I'm asking them to pay 18,000 apples, am I delivering 18,000 apples worth of value? Can they see that value that I'm offering? If I'm not doing any marketing, there's no value in the 18,000 apples, right? And so you really have to stretch yourself and think, am I delivering the wow factor here that makes it so that there is no issue with the absence of value? One time, we went up to Strawberry a couple years ago, and I rented a cabin and I forgot my cooking spray. And so we went to the grocery store, and the Bash is up there. It was like $7.99 for a cooking spray. And in my mind, I stopped because I was like, man, that's outrageous for a small bottle of cooking spray, when I could go to Costco and get 4 times that amount for the same price. And I paused because I was like, how bad do I really need this cooking spray, right? Because there was cost was an issue in the absence of value, right? I couldn't justify paying that much money for a quarter of product that I could get at Costco. So just think about that when you're thinking about asking someone to pay 18,000 apples. Am I delivering that much value? All right, so the next one's the real estate sales beliefs. Same thing. Let's read through these. So I think all of them are core beliefs that we should have ingrained, right? Because real estate can be a get rich business. If you look at in the world, the most wealthy people, what is it that they do? The majority of them is real estate, right? That's what they do, is they sell real estate, or they build real estate, or they develop real estate, right? And so when we think about that, it can be a get rich business. And those of you who are in the business to make wealth, own it. There's nothing wrong with that. There's absolutely nothing wrong. We provide a service, and it just happens that we get compensated for that. Okay. Real estate is basic. I oftentimes will have agents push back on this because they're like, it's not basic. The contract is black and white, right? But no real estate transaction is ever the same. What we are talking about here with it being basic is that the concept of relationship building is basic. Doesn't matter what you're selling, if you're selling pharmaceuticals or widgets or real estate, if you can build relationships and network, you will be successful at real estate. Okay. It's a task business, right? It's over and over again. If you go to McDonald's, every person that works at McDonald's has gone through McDonald's University, and they know that if they put the right amount of ice in a cup and they hit the button that says small, medium, or large, that cup will fill up right to the line. It won't be below, and it won't go over. Okay, and so they've all been trained that way. So when we think about real estate, it's a task business, and so we do things over and over and over, right? And then people will not. I will not convert 100% of the leads I do not generate. Right? We shouldn't get out of bed in the morning and wonder who needs our services. Okay, we should be thinking about building our pipelines. People will trust and follow what I can logically and tangibly explain. And then if you can do that, if you can explain it, then they take responsibility. They take accountability for how they price the property or how they interact throughout the whole process, right? But we got to be able to get them to follow that. So that's being demonstrating and showing them, actively engaging them in the listing presentation and in the listing conversation, right? So that they can follow what you're saying and be logical, because selling a home, it's not always logical. It can be very emotional, right? And so we want to be that neutral person. And then lastly, if you have the vibe about you that it's unacceptable to leave someone's money on the table, people will feel that about you, right? And they will never feel like, ooh, Mario's a used car salesman who's just trying to sell me the most expensive Yugo, right? And so, if you put that vibe out there that, hey, I'm going to do everything I can to defend and protect your equity, people will sense that from you, okay? All right, one more set here is buyer beliefs. And so when we talk about buyers, again, I have all of these. If you were to see my notes from when I trained on this class, I have them all highlighted. So time reveals all, right? If we have a system that we can use, again, it's a task business. If we have a system, we can determine whether or not that person is an A buyer, okay? And we don't let them waste our time. So time is limited, right? That is our only limited commodity in the whole world is time. Because when it's the end of your time, it's the end of your time. There's no buying back anything, okay? So when you say yes to something, you're saying no to something else. And so we want to make sure that we're only spending time with legitimate A buyers. Okay. Now that's not to say we don't follow up with B's and C's. Okay. Because we definitely want to do that too. So we fill our pipeline. Motivated and qualified and loyal people buy homes. Okay. So those are A buyers. Those are your legit people. Okay. Motivated, right? Why do they need to move? Are they qualified and are they loyal to you? Okay. Having a process reduces the risk that comes with the buyer. And so again, think McDonald's. And so I want to have a process that I put everybody through. And one of my rants about working buyers is you've got to be doing buyer consultations. And maybe I've gotten really lucky over the years, but my process is I do a buyer consultation. I walk through the contract. I walk through all of the disclosures. We talk about the home inspection. We talk about the appraisal. We talk about earnest money. We talk about open houses and new homes and not going and buying something, buying a new car because they got the 3-car garage that they want, right? So we talk about all that stuff. And then I get all the disclosures signed. And, I've gained their trust. And trust me, if you sit for an hour and go over all of that stuff with someone, by the end of it, they're begging for representation. And then I set an appointment. We're going to go out a couple days. We're going to look at every home that's on the market that meets your needs, and we're going to buy one, or at least we're going to try to buy one, right? And so I want them to have 3 properties that they could see themselves living in, and that way I've got backups in this market. I think that's really important, and I'm giving them permission, right? I'm giving them permission to act that day, to go out and buy a house. We're not being tour guide Barbie. I want you to go out and buy a home, okay? And so that's a process, right? That's my process of how I can be successful working with buyers. Number 4, if they won't meet me, they're not a buyer. Could you be a Pop-Tart realtor and make money? Yes. And so what is a Pop-Tart, Jess? That is basically the phone rings, it's a sign call. This person wants to see my listing or a property. And so you go show the property. I have made lots of money being a Pop-Tart. Now, caveat to that is that you need to ask the right questions, and you need to kind of qualify that person on the phone. If they won't meet you and come to the office and have a consultation with you, probably something going on with them. It might be a red flag. Okay. But if I can solidify the relationship, show a property, and then gain a commitment from them, I'm going to do it. And I'm going to do it all day long because I've made money doing it. But you got to ask the right questions. Okay. And then A buyers deserve my immediate time and attention. Caveat to that is, let's say somebody's visiting Arizona. They came here for the PGA. They think it's great weather. They're falling in love with it. They call about a house. I might go show them a couple properties just to solidify the relationship in the future business. Because maybe they're not ready today, but they're going to buy in a year. I want that lead in a year. And Nate will tell you, one of his dearest friends, and not only dearest friend, but somebody who's done multiple transactions with him, was exactly that scenario. He was on his way to the airport, leaving, saw a house, called Nate, and all these years later, Nate's not only done multiple deals with them, but he's one of his good friends. And so there's a caveat to that, but in most cases, A buyers are the ones that deserve your immediate time and attention. Okay. All right. So moving into more scripts and dialogues, and that's pretty much the rest of the class is scripts and dialogues. So we'll see how many we can get through here in the next 25 minutes. So typical property call. Hi, I'm calling about your listing 123 Easy Street. What would you like to know? How much are they asking? What's the list price? How many bedrooms? Okay, thank you. No problem. Right. So, and I've heard this in the office, or it's already under contract. Okay, thank you. Bye-bye. That was a lead, right? That was one of our 6 to 8 leads. And so you want to stop, right, and switch into a different mode, right? So most agents think the goal is just to give the information, but that's not, right? The goal is to try to convert that person. Okay. So we want to make sure we answer all of their questions. Okay. Identify where they are in the buying process, and then close and follow up according to the appropriate action. I was reading an article today. I'll have to send it out to you guys on the percentage of agents that fail to follow up. It was quite shocking. It was like 50% of leads that come in never even get a response. And so that's not good, right? And that it's usually the sweet spot on follow-up is between calls, the 5th and the 15th touch. And so if you're only doing 1 or 2 touches and follow-ups, you're not doing enough, right? So it's, up to 15 is good follow-up. All right, so first obligation is to provide them with the information. So I'm calling about your listing on Easy Street. See the difference here? Yes, that's a great property. What would you like to know? The list price is $150. Does that fit your price range? And so we want to not just give the information, but also follow up with a question that keeps the caller talking. If you watch any crime shows, there's always the, oh, by the way, at the end, right? And so we want to keep them talking, right? So we can get the information. And then that house is a 4-bedroom. Are you looking for a 4-bedroom? So we want to keep asking questions until we get the no, okay? And then we would switch roles. And then now we're going to ask, are you currently in the market for a new home? So you just want to keep going deeper with it, right? And keep them talking, keep them on the line so that we can increase our conversion. So if their question implies that they are not being intentional, so how are you going about finding your perfect home? Well, I'm using Zillow, for example, right? Using Zillow. So that would definitely be not being intentional, right? Because we all know Zillow's inaccurate. And I actually heard in Denver that Zillow kicked a bunch of properties that were already under contract back active because agents were complaining and they were losing agents not wanting to pay for leads. Because Zillow here obviously is a little bit different because now they're our competitor, but there people are still paying to be premier agents. So agents were complaining that they weren't getting any leads. So Zillow kicked a bunch of pending properties back active and sold properties back active. So they would never admit that, but it happened. I have a couple coaching clients in the Denver area that experienced that. So definitely not being intentional if you're using Zillow. So I love this script. So how would you like to use a proactive process that will ensure you get the home you want and want the home you get? Great script, right? How would you like to use a proactive process that will ensure you get the home you want and want the home you get? In this market, are people settling? I think some of them might be, right? So what would that entail? It would begin with us getting together for about an hour so I can uncover exactly what you need in your next home, define your financial comfort zone, and thoroughly discuss the roles and expectations we would have of one another in a successful working relationship. Does that sound like an approach that could benefit you? And then, if they're an A buyer and legit, are they going to say yes? Most likely, right? If they're really in the market to buy a home and they're not having any success, you saying something like that should definitely get their attention. Okay. So if there's anything you take away from this part of the class, is that script, because that is hands down one of my favorite scripts that we teach in Momentum. Okay, so we might have to justify. So can't we just email me? Just send me the stuff, because what have we done, right? We have programmed people to say that. Can't you just email me, right? It's sort of like going to Dillard's and going shopping, and if the salesperson says, "Can I help you find something?" What do we say? Nope, I'm just looking, right? And so we've programmed people to say that. So here's the script. Do you not see a benefit of us getting together? Well, other agents haven't had me do this, right? So again, don't be typical. Exactly. Understand that I'm a real estate consultant and I'm extremely serious about what I do. I don't do this part-time. I run a business, and I am not just in the business of showing houses. I'm in the business of satisfying needs. I have a process that I use with all my clients. Therefore, what we need to do before I start emailing you the information is to define your perfect home, make sure the homes we consider fall well within your financial comfort zone, which I love. Instead of saying how much you qualified for, your financial comfort zone, and that builds a lot of trust, and thoroughly discuss our roles and expectations in a successful working relationship. I believe the best approach when investing a large sum of money is to operate as an intentional and proactive team. Wouldn't you agree? And then you would close for the appointment. So the bolded parts in there are parts that you don't want to change. Being intentional and being a proactive team builds trust. Like I said, I love the phrase financial comfort zone. Sounds way better than saying, how much you're qualified for. All right, so a little bit more direct approach. So these scripts may not resonate with all of you guys. So, because, depending on your personality style. So in regards to your next home, is it important that you make an informed and intelligent decision? Is it important that you take a proactive approach rather than a reactive one? Is it important that you get the home you want, and more importantly, want the home you get? Is it important that you make a logical decision rather than one based entirely on emotion? If they say yes, then shouldn't we use a proactive approach that will guarantee these results? If they say no, then we live in a world of abundance, right? That's one of our affirmations. And so we want to say next. So remember, your choices, right? Then your actions, then your habits, that all creates your character, and then ultimately creates your destiny and your legacy that you leave behind. All right. So, as I said, we're not going to do any role play. Let me see here. All right. So page 19. So in lieu of time here, I'm probably going to look through a few of these and just pick the ones that I think are most important, but please go back and read the material. Okay. So if they're working with an agent, are you in the market for a new home? Okay. We're working with an agent. It's your choice, right? You could go a little deeper with that. Some of us more advanced people, more seasoned people might probe a little deeper with that, right? Because again, it's the same thing. If I go to an open house, I could tell them, yeah, I have an agent, but I really don't, right? Because that's that common blow off, right, Lynette, that I don't want to be bothered by you, okay? If they say they signed something, certainly you could dive into that too if you want, but that's probably where I'm going to stop, is if they say they signed something, okay? Let's see here. So we're just looking. So on page 21, we're just looking. So same thing like this gal I was telling you about that reached out to me on Facebook. She's, they want to buy in Sun City, and so they have to be a certain age. So how do I help her navigate that, right? Or what are the loopholes that we can create in order to get her off the fence so that she's moving now? And so when she said, 2 to 12 months, when will I be ready? 2 to 12 months, we want to listen, we want to ask and probe a little bit deeper with that. Well, what's the reason we're waiting for that? And in her situation, they're not old enough. They're not old enough to get into Sun City. And so, can I help them navigate that and educate them about what their options are? Maybe they had a foreclosure, or maybe they need to save money or whatever, right? Maybe they don't even know what they don't know. So I had heard a story of a lady that was a renter, had been renting in Phoenix for years because someone told her that because she owned a house in California, she couldn't qualify for 2 mortgages. Well, that house in California was rented. And so she didn't know that because it was rented, that cashed out, it canceled each other out. So she got bad intel and was renting when she could have been buying a home. And so, we educated her about that process. And I believe that she did end up buying a house. And so sometimes when people say I have to wait, right, or I'm just looking, well, why is it that you're just looking? And right now, I think we need to be exploring everything. I don't know if Lynette, you might have heard me tell this story, but I'm going to say it again because it's a good story. A couple of years ago, I had a past client of mine. He had unfortunately his property went to foreclosure. We tried to do a short sale and we couldn't. So he was still in that 4-year window on the foreclosure, and he wanted to buy a house. And so we were looking at a new build in Stetson Hills or Stetson Valley. And so there was a new home realtor, me, Janice, my TC, and my lender and the builder's lender. All so 5 people who are experts in the industry, and we were racking our brains about how we could get this guy qualified for 3.5% FHA loan. Well, with FHA guidelines in the foreclosure, we were just outside that window that we couldn't do it. So we're racking our brains trying to figure out what can we do. And he was going to have to go conventional and put down a sizable amount of money. So finally, I'm talking to him, and he's a real shy guy, and he says, "Well, Sarah, can I just put the money down?" And I said, "Well, what do you have $30,000?" And he's like, "Yeah, I have $30,000. So all of us assumed, because he was a young guy, right, that he had no money, and we were trying to get him through FHA, we couldn't, and he finally raises his hand. And I share that story because it was one of these moments in my career where I was like, duh, right? Ask the client, what is his financial means? And right now, with how competitive things are, I think we need to be exploring every option. We need to be having very open dialogue with buyers about what is it that they really can do. Do they have a rich aunt? Can they, do we have sellers that want to move, but they're afraid they're going to be homeless? So can we do a bridge loan for them? What are our options? Can we buy down an interest rate to give somebody buying power up? I think that talking to your loan officers and finding out everything that's available to you as agents, and then also really having those deep dive conversations with our clients, because in the situation of Kyle, 5 people, no one bothered to ask this guy how much money he had. Okay. And so duh moment, because that should have been a conversation we had right away. Right. So make sure that you're asking enough questions. Okay. Let me advance my slides here. All right, so a couple other examples I want you guys to see. So before we wrap up the class, direct mail responses. So here's some examples of really basic ads that you guys could run. So you could have a first-time home buyer. Obviously, you want to put it in a price point that makes sense. $1,200, what's that going to buy you? Maybe $225 right now in our market with the interest rates, $250. I probably am going to want to go a little higher than that. Homes under $150, obviously we don't really have any unless you're looking at condos or maybe some city, retirement type stuff. Fix and flippers, again, I would probably steer away from that right now, just personally, but there are definitely investors out there. Could you do something around foreclosure? Could you do an ad around, hey, have you missed a payment? We can help, right? There's no reason that your house needs to go to foreclosure. And then, of course, first-time home seller reports. There are some people who bought during 2008 and 2007, 2008, 2009. They're sitting on a pot of equity, and they don't even know it. And so could we put something out in front of them to let them know that, hey, you're sitting on a pot plus all of the low interest rate. You could take that equity and leverage yourself into a new home. All right, so on page 24 is tracking, and it's just a really basic tracking form. I would probably take this and put it into an Excel or a Google Doc so that it lives digitally instead of on paper, but really tracking. So tracking how many calls you received, right? From different ads, different sources, how many appointments did you go on? How many did that actually turn into deals, right? And so tracking is super important. I know it's boring, but you can't come up with statistics like the average days on market for you personally if you're not tracking it. You can't brag on how much you negotiate on list price versus sales price if you're not tracking it, right? And so I know it's not always a fun task to do, but if you do it every week and maybe once a month, it's definitely, I would say do it every week, because then it's a lot more manageable. Okay. And some of these things you need to be tracking every day, if you're getting sign calls and ad calls. All right, so a proactive marketer, your financial consequences of a proactive marketer. And so thinking about having 20 listings, right? And if we did 275 touches, that'd be 5,500 touches for the year. And if you had a 25% set rate, would give you 14 more appointments. And if you only landed 50% of those, I'd give you 7 meetings. And again, if you only had 45% conversion rate, that'd give you a total of 3. And if we do the math, that's, over $1 million worth of, well, right at $1 million worth of real estate. Okay. And then touches, right? So door knocking, phone calls, postcards. Okay, so all those things where we're canvassing the neighborhood. So when you have the farm, you got your 250 homes, you put up a sign, you want to send a just listed to those 250 people, because now, you know, Lynette, they're getting your monthly piece, they see your sign, you've door knocked, right? You send a postcard, so they're just getting inundated with your face, letting them know that, hey, I'm selling real estate in this neighborhood. Okay, and the more, and again, small percentage, 5 to 7%. But that's okay, right? Because every touch, you know, and maybe that person isn't ready this year, but they're going to be ready in 2 years, and you stay in contact with them and you grow that exposure. Okay. All right. Okay, so again, this is kind of a duplicate slide because we talked about being a proactive marketer. But again, you know, looking at the just sold. So you have, you know, just listed, just sold. So when you take all of these together and start adding up these numbers, right, it starts to be a significant amount of listings that you could potentially get in a neighborhood. Okay, let's see. The last stuff here is the last few scripts. If you look at page 28, is a script, this a door knocking script. And it's the same script when making phone calls. So it's the exact same script, whether you're in person or on the phone. So it's, hi, it's Sarah with Remax Professionals. I've just listed the Smith's home at 12 Easy Street. As an extra service to the Smiths, I'm inviting their closest neighbors to see if anyone you know may be interested in buying a home in this neighborhood. Extra service, that's a key part of that phrase, right? Because the average agents are not doing that. If they say no, then I would hand them the flyer, not your business card. Your business card is going to be on the flyer. If you happen to run across someone who would like to live in the neighborhood, please let me know. Thanks and have a great day. Oh, by the way, another key phrase, I listed the house for $350. So this educates them about property values. It's an extra service, so they're seeing your hustle that their realtor probably didn't do for them. And so could we have that type of conversation 4 times, right? Coming soon, open house, pending with your storyboard, and then sold. Okay. So same thing with the just sold postcard, or just sold on page 29, same script. This is Sarah with Remax Professionals, and I've sold the Smith's home at 123 Easy Street. During that process, I've come across other buyers interested in your neighborhood, and I'm simply wondering if you know someone who's interested in selling. Again, you know, you can hand them your card or a just sold postcard, and then oh, by the way, I sold the home for $350. Hopefully that's a favorable number, and they don't look at you and go, how come it only sold for $350? So, you know, hopefully that's a good number, right? And it's the same script when making phone calls. You're just on the phone versus standing at their door. Okay. So the, oh, by the way, on page 30, it talks about that's the phrase that pays, right? It's the hook, right? And then the last page in your guys' materials are just additional tracking forms of ways that things that you should be tracking. So what gets measured gets done. If you've ever been on a diet, what's the one thing they tell you to do? Track what you're eating, track how much exercise you're doing, track how much water you're drinking, all of that stuff. So here's just, again, it's real basic, nothing crazy. As I said, I would turn this into a spreadsheet so that it lived on my computer and was a little bit more digital. And last thing on page 32, same thing is just your farm area. So tracking, and you know, this is critical, right? So presentations, and then you're just listed. How many leads came from that just listed postcard? How many leads came from your just sold? Sign calls, ad calls, and then your website. Okay. So, you know, tracking all of that stuff so that we know exactly what's working, what's not working. And sometimes it's just a little tweak, right? Something might be good, but we just need to tweak it a little bit, right? Change some verbiage. And so the only way you're going to know that is if you actually track it. Okay. So that's the end of my presentation for today. And I've got a few minutes to spare. What are your questions, comments, thoughts? What do you think? Anybody going to go out and start a farm? Lynette?
Yep.
You're gonna do it? Okay, cool. Yeah, and you know, I don't know who you work with as your title company, but you could definitely can help as well with researching your farm areas and what makes sense. Okay. Yeah. And you know, try to, you know, make it convenient for yourself too. I would pick somewhere close by where you live, maybe not the neighborhood you live in, but you know, something that makes sense when you're canvassing, that you're gonna, you know, you don't want to go drive to Gilbert is what I'm getting at.
Oh yeah, yeah. Well, and even like the current neighborhood I'm in, there's been 3 houses that have sold in here in the last 4 months, and all by different companies. So, and I'm just renting here, so I'll probably farm it just to.
Where do you live?
I actually live in Stetson Valley.
Oh, do you Stetson Valley?
Or whatever. Yeah. So yeah, I'm right off of 51st and Happy Valley. So
That's such a great neighborhood, such a great location too.
it
So.
is a pricing. I mean, like there was a house similar to the house we're renting, just went on the market for 575. Terrible, terrible finishes.
Yeah.
It was like 575, but
Yeah.
pictures taken with their camera phone. I mean, you're just like, wow. Anyway.
Yeah. Yeah. Ugh, that's frustrating.
Yeah,
So,
it is. So I just need to start. I need to use my send out cards and just get in there and start sending out cards.
yeah, I think Shelby DiBiase farms Stetson Valley, and then Barb Henderson farms Stetson Hills. So
Yeah,
there you might.
there's a couple gals too that are like a team. They send out like a newsletter. They're
Mhm.
Fast Realty though, I think, but I don't know. It's really hard for me to get my head wrapped around sending out mailers because I'm the type of person who goes through my mail over my recycle bin.
Mhm.
So I would much rather send out like a card, something I know that's got to be opened, not just like a postcard. Yeah. Anyway, that's
Yeah. No, that makes sense. I get it. I get it. But remember, there is a percentage of people who will stop and look at that because they're ready to
Yeah.
make a move. So
Yeah,
it's a
true.
numbers game. When it comes to farming, it's really a numbers game. And
Yeah.
you got to have patience because it takes time. It's literally, think about a farmer. They gotta keep the weeds, they gotta water, they gotta till,
Mhm.
they gotta, maintain it. And so it's kind of the same thing with farming for real estate. So
Yeah.
yeah, cool.
Thanks for
Any
your
other?
time today. It was good
You're
info.
very welcome. It's my pleasure. My pleasure. So Thursday is Slam, which you're
Yep.
you're signed up for. We have a broker open forum on Wednesday, and I believe the topic is the clear policy. So that's at 2:00 on Wednesday. So they've decided to start adding topics to those to try to get more traffic to them. So and the one last week was really a good brainstorm on
I
how
have
to.
to tell you, my broker up in Washington State, we Zoomed last week because she wanted to find out how the transition was going for me. And this is like the president of Remax Equity Group. And I was
Nice.
just telling her how amazing it has been working for Remax professionals. And I kind of shared some emails with her like, okay, this is what they put out on Mondays, and this is what they put out on Fridays, and this is their newsletter. And I said that because they don't do that, you know what I mean? And I just said, you have to understand how much value that brings to
Yeah.
have a broker blast every Friday and, for good practices. I think it's vital to keep everybody,
Yep. Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. It's interesting. All the, you see all the things we do as a company versus what
Mhm.
other companies do. So
It's a big deal. Yeah.
yeah, absolutely. Love it. All right. Okay.
Thank you.
Well, you're very welcome. Have a great day. You guys stay
You
safe.
too.
Okay.
Okay.
We'll see ya. Bye.